I feel concerned, but not surprised.
I did try and fuck her. She was married.
It's huge news, Sarah.
No, Nan.
You should keep your mouth shut.
And he went after me on the plane. Yeah, I'm going to go after. Believe me, she would not be my first choice, that I can tell you.
I feel disgusted.
And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab him by the pussy.
What's his name? Ways that I've experienced misogyny. I'm a lifeguard, so I spend most of my time in a bathing suit. And numerous times during my summers of lifeguarding, I've experienced men feeling that they have the right to touch me, to make comments to me about my body, to, flirt with me. This is my body, and just because you are a man and you feel that you're above me, that does not give you the right to touch what is not yours.
Condescending tones, being talked down to, being told to dress nicer, or you behave like this in this specific setting, women shouldn't act that way. You should keep your mouth shut.
Over the past 4 years, I've noticed, I don't know if this is just me maturing or having to do with his presidency, but I've been catcalled a lot more. Sexual harassment has increased in general, where men feel that they can touch me and stuff. I would say that I had a lot of older gentlemen make comments about my looks, or feel free to touch me on my back and stuff, just trying to pass through. So, and then, being Black, a lot more comments about, or sneers. Whenever I enter into buildings, people just seem a lot more divided when they see my hair or just see me.
People talk about girls in a certain way and talk about women in a certain way. You hear comments like, I don't know, you see sometimes I would see a guy smile at me, and then he'd be like, "Okay, little lady," and something like that, and it would just make me feel that's not okay, Yeah.
The lovely world of Facebook, I had posted something about abortion rights and how I'm pro-choice. And we had, I used to be Catholic, and there were at least four of the older men in my church arguing in my comments section. And one of them, who I had held in very high regard, high esteem, he had been, my mentor through the church and everything, commented back, "Hush, little girl, the adults are talking."
One time I was walking with a group of girls, A few of them were Black, and I couldn't really remember what the driver said, but I'm pretty sure I heard the N-word, like nigger bitches, coming out. So I was like, that wasn't fun as we were going through a party.
I was at the store with my grandma one time, and I was just standing in line, and there was like this guy behind me. And my grandma was standing behind him in line as well. And he kept like staring at me and like, you know, like looking at me in a certain way. And my grandma ended up having to like, you know, say, hey, what are you doing? That's my granddaughter. And that was like, I think that was like close to when I was around 17 or 18.
Since 2017, I have had numerous experiences with sexual assault and sexual misconduct. The multiple instances that have happened at this university were not handled the way that I would like them to have been handled. It's definitely clear that it was not my feelings that were in my, you know, my comfort level that was in mind. It was the man's. And will he be in trouble? You know, will he have his life ruined because of this accusation?
Donald Trump's Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, did very thoroughly reform Title IX. And the stated purpose of that, of course, was due process. She said the people who are being accused of sexual assault need more rights. And the approach that they took to reforming it, there are really three specific areas. One of those is that they replaced, when it comes to sexual harassment, they replaced the severe or pervasive standard with a severe and pervasive standard. So now something might be incredibly heinous, aggressive, again, severe. Anybody could look at this and say, this is an awful situation. But if it doesn't happen throughout a repeated and long enough period, they may say, I'm sorry, this doesn't count as sexual harassment. We can't do anything about it. The other is the limitation for what schools can actually do to either sexual misconduct that happens on campus or in official school-related functions. You can essentially go 10 meters off campus, you know, go into the town, go into a store right out, and if something happens there between two classmates, the school can do nothing about it. That's another part of those regulations. And the third thing that I'd like to highlight here is it gives accused students the right to have a live hearing with cross-examinations. And if they don't do that, because it goes deeper than just that this is required, if they don't do that, nothing they say can be taken as evidence. And that goes to anybody. So if anybody else knows anything about the situation, if they're not willing to go to the live hearing and be cross-examined, nothing they say can be taken. Now, I would cite one, Scott Schneider, who's a Title IX specialist, a professional who helps universities out with these sorts of policies. In an interview earlier this year with NBC, he talked about one specific case where a student who was accused of abusing another one admitted to doing that in an interview, just a private discussion with school administrators. But he refused to participate in the cross-examination. He refused to participate in the live hearing, so they couldn't take his confession as evidence. That's what these reforms are doing.
I love those signs, women for Trump. Because I actually think I'm doing well with women. I was with Donald Trump in 1980. I was sitting with him on an airplane. And he went after me on the plane. Yeah, I'm going to go after. Believe me, she would not be my first choice, that I can tell you. Man.
His comments remind me of like, there's such a thing as a good victim, if that makes sense. Like, he doesn't believe these women because they came out too late, or they're too ugly, or they just don't fit the profile. So in a sense, his comments are like, well, you're not a good victim, or this isn't like a real case. Yeah, no, his comments are just truly awful. And he's just playing this idea of like, there's a good victim and there's no such thing as a good victim. People take their time, and people have a right to do that with how they experience assault and harassment. And yeah, I just feel like because he was being targeted, he just really wanted to dismiss this woman in like the most misogynist way of like, oh, she's fat and ugly, no one would ever want to like touch her, and like have a good laugh with the boys, when like he's just dismissing all the trauma that they've gone through.
I've had a lot of false charges made against me. I'm a very famous person, unfortunately. I've been a famous person for a long time, but I've had a lot of false charges made against me, really false charges.
It's the fact of he's using the minority of cases where, women have made up things, which are an extreme, extreme, extreme minority of sexual assault allegations, where women have made things up, and he's trying to paint all of the women that have accused him of these horrendous crimes. He's trying to paint them all as liars. It made me want to see every woman that has ever survived something like this have the courage to stand forward and go, this is wrong. And all women, even if they haven't survived something like this, and I am very lucky in the fact of I have never had any experience like that. We should all be standing behind those women that are survivors, that are victims.
I mean, all of the men, we're petrified to speak to women anymore. We may raise our voice. You know what? The women get it better than we do, folks. All right? They get it better than we do.
The comments he makes and everything he says it's disgusting, and it's terrible for especially people who have experienced sexual assault, because, dismissing those things and like saying, it's, it happens or stuff like that. It's like, you see those things and you're like, are you kidding me? Like, did that really happen? Did you really just say that? Did you really just like...
How do you feel about the issue of sexual assault, and whether it's a...
Let me ask you this. When he said that, he was a Democrat. He's opened his eyes, now he's a Republican. He's sorry for it.
Okay.
It does not bother me that he said that. I do not think that women should be sexually assaulted in any shape, form, or fashion. They should be respected, period. But with that said, some women live off the zippers of rich men. So therefore, if you put yourself in that position, there's no telling what you're going to get,
All that very much goes back to the nature of the dialogue and the cult of personality around him. I'm not really worried about one man who talks in that way and degrades people publicly. It's unfortunate, but it's not catastrophic by itself. What's dangerous about that is that this man who's saying these things about sexual assault survivors, about the Me Too movement, happens to be somebody with millions of very loyal followers who, regardless of what he says, will defend him and will start repeating what he says. So now when he talks about survivors in this sort of degrading way, now again, his millions of followers are using those same sorts of lines. And now people who might have been ambivalent, they might have been even sympathetic, or at absolute worst, they might just not have been talking about this in a toxic way. Now they're thinking about it, and now they're talking about it in a very counterproductive way.
People magazine story, they brought forward 6 witnesses.
Why didn't she write the story 12 years ago?
She said she was afraid.
Oh, she was afraid. Give me a break. She was afraid to write it. She would have gotten the Pulitzer Prize. Give me a break.
I think that his comments made towards sexual assault survivors is disgusting. And I think that the fact that he feels that he can make those comments show his lack of care to openly say about someone who has come forth about this traumatic experience that's happened to them and say that, you know, didn't happen, you know, you're just a liar, you know, you just want to be in the spotlight. As someone who has experienced sexual assault, talking about it with people embarrassed me. I felt weak. And from someone who was raised by a single mom for a majority of my life, I was taught that as a woman, you can't show your weakness. Because once you've shown your weakness, you'll always be seen that way. So coming forth about something that shows weakness and openly speaking about it to people, and then just being shot down and saying, you know, you're just a liar, you just want people to look at you and to see you, that breaks my heart that he has done that to those people. Because I can't imagine, you know, telling my story and then having someone say that's, yeah.
Former Vice President Joe Biden has been elected President of the United States. He is President-elect Joseph Robinette Biden at 77 years old.
I think my biggest concern, having seen his presidency conclude and just all of the events that took place during his presidency, it's really made me realize that the people who have the same mindset as him and feel the same way that he does about, you know, women and all of those factors, they're coming out of the woodworks. Whereas before, they were hiding. I think that having had Trump in office, it's allowed those people to feel comfortable coming out and further spreading that hate. And so I'm worried about, I worry about a spike in hate crimes, and I worry about, you know, never fully being equal.
I worry that the misogynistic men that are out there have been so emboldened by the fact that this man was a president that they will feel that even though he's not in office anymore, that they still have the freedom to make inappropriate comments in the workplace, to harass people in the public, in work.
I think concerns about, you know, women's rights and being able to like go out and not be like afraid of how they are, and just, you know, go out and not be harassed by somebody just because, you know, they're wearing something or just because they're like out there. And I think it's a point where we need to continue to build stronger because of, you know, the damages that have left from his presidency. And I think this is a point where we need to work to defend ourselves more, just because like of everything that's happened in the past.
Well, as I said before, we have less rights now. And now that the The can of worms has been opened. We can't really expect it to stop here. Now that this sort of behavior has been normalized, and now that the Trump wing of the party is now a substantial group. So it's a situation now where even moving forward, even if Trump doesn't run again, which he might, even if he doesn't, now a lot of other Republicans are trying to be the next Donald Trump. And with that includes the sort of rhetoric, the sort of policy priorities that are incredibly dangerous to women around the world, not just around the country.
So I am just really worried about the backlash. I'm fearful of like the backlash. We see with Biden as like a lot of like women, especially women of color, helped Biden get into office, and like people are not happy with Biden right now. So it's like when they can't really explicitly put that anger on him, but they can easily put it on me. I'm just bracing myself and waiting for the day, like not to be like a doomsday planner, but I'm just waiting to see like what's really gonna happen. Are people gonna accept this change? Are people gonna move forward and just be more forward thinking and open? Or are they really just gonna try to silence me more and be successful?